Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Do they love you? Love doesn't hurt you. Don't check yes. It's time to check or no. This is You Should Be Here, a collaborative podcast. I'm Jen Rivera, one half of Fire Eyes Media. This is our second series titled Or No. And together with many of our podcasting friends, we're telling stories about victims of abuse in order to raise awareness, educate, and advocate. Please visit buymeacoffee.com/You Should Be Here to donate. Thank you for being here. Now let's go.
Hey guys, it's Jules from the long-form investigative podcast, Missing in Hushtown. I'm so excited to share that my weekly true crime podcast, True Crime and Headlines with Jules and Jen, is returning for season 3 this month. We're coming back bigger, better, and with very little banter, and putting all our focus on cases and the victims. Please search for True Crime and Headlines wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss a single episode drop every week on Tuesdays. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. Say hi to me. You can find me at your host, Jules, Jules. And hi, you're here. Thank you. I have a huge thank you to give to you because just by being here and just by listening to these episodes, did you know that you're helping us raise money to give back to nonprofits that fight for justice to help victims of crimes? Now, this is a Podcasters Give Back collaboration podcast. You may hear some of your favorite podcasts on this show, or you may discover new podcasts that you didn't know about and that you go and listen to, which would be so cool. You Should Be Here will have 4 series each season. Now, each series is going to be themed. This is season 1 with the second series titled Or No, and we're trying to bring awareness about domestic violence. You guys, all these podcasters have donated their time and research to help advocate for victims of domestic violence. And we're raising money to give back to nonprofits which are standing against domestic violence. And so if you, now this is really important. If you or someone you love is a victim of domestic violence, please contact the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Why would I call a hotline of strangers? I don't know them. Here's why, guys. They can direct you to resources. They can help you process your thoughts and get things in order. They can help give you next steps to take to get to safety. Because, babe, you deserve a safe love. And the ones you love deserve a safe love, too. Again, that number is 1-800-799-7233. But if you'd like to donate directly to us, go to buymeacoffee.com/You Should Be Here. Or, you know what? Just go visit the link in the show notes because those are there too. Okay, enough chit chat. I love you. I'm so happy you're here. Yada, yada, yada. I have to tell you about this case. It might rip you apart. It's an interesting case, but it's also a new, fresh case. It's only 4 months old. And you guys, there's someone on the run. So we need your help in finding them. It's time to jump into today's case.
Philadelphia police released these photos of 34-year-old Miguel Aguilar as they say he's a person of interest in this homicide investigation. Officials believe he is driving this white Chevrolet cargo van with a Pennsylvania license plate. They also want to note that the van has a roof rack, a missing paint, and a cross decal on the driver's side door. People on the block recall seeing him just a few days ago.
We seen him Friday. He was outside like he normally is, just sitting on the steps.
According to investigators, police were first called to the home on the 5900 block of Elsinore Street on Saturday, just after 9 p.m. Upon further investigation, they returned on Sunday. That's when they found 53-year-old Ivelisse Lugo wrapped in a blanket and a towel in the garage. Police say she was stabbed in the back.
I pray for the family, and I hope and pray that they do catch whoever did this to this young lady.
Ivelisse Lugo, just 53, was more than a victim of domestic violence. You guys, she was a loving daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a mother, and she is desperately missed. Her death was tragic, unfair, and it remains an unsolved case. However, as you may have heard in the audio clip from ABC News I just played, Ivelisse's husband is currently on the run and wanted on suspicion of murder. Before we dive into the day Ivelisse's body was discovered, I want to share how this case coverage actually came to be. It's pretty interesting. Some of you may know or not know that I do a lot on Instagram. I run quite a few pages for my production company, and we try to use it as a platform for advocacy for victim rights and ethics in true crime podcasting. You know, I post reels and stories and tag people and reach out to family members. Well, Ivelisse's niece, Mari, sent me a message on Instagram. Actually, it was just a few weeks ago. And in her message, she asked if there was any way I could help her. And let me tell you, you guys, I was not prepared for what she had to share. It's absolutely devastating. And I tell these stories all the time. Ivelisse's niece, Mari, and I talked on the phone for a couple hours. And so if you're listening, Mari, I really applaud you and I respect you. And I think you are doing the absolute best thing you can do to try to get justice, and that's to get loud. So let's help you and let's get loud. Okay, everybody, buckle up. Ivelisse was murdered on October 26th of 2024. You guys, that was just 4 months ago as of release of this podcast. It's fresh, so fresh. And like I said earlier, the suspect that is wanted for questioning for her murder was someone she was supposed to be able to trust with her life, her husband. Let's rewind the clock a bit and let's meet Ivelisse. She was born on October 13th, 1971, in Ponce, Puerto Rico, in a close-knit family with 5 siblings. After 10 years in Puerto Rico, Ivelisse's mother and her mother's partner separated, prompting her mother to move the family to New York. When Ivelisse was in her late teens, the family then moved to Philadelphia. It'll be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where Ivelisse will take her last breath. Now, growing up, Ivelisse was an energetic, outgoing, and adventurous child who loved to climb trees and dance. As she continued to grow up, she took in an interest in running track and field and maintained that energetic spirit, seeing it transform now into a fiery and sassy spirit. Ivelisse was known for being an absolutely kind soul, while not being afraid to stand her ground and be assertive. She was the life of the party, a salsa dancing loving girl who would always show up to the party, albeit she would arrive fashionably late, but she would be there to get it going and add immense joy to the room. Ivelisse went through school to become a medical assistant in a private practice. When she was 20 and 21, she gave birth to 2 beautiful girls. However, the father of her children would be deported to the Dominican Republic, and now we have Ivelisse finding herself as a young single mother with 2 very young girls. So she moves back to New York, where she has a lot of connections and more opportunities. And while in New York, Ivelisse was in a long-term relationship with a gentleman whom her daughters considered their stepfather. However, this relationship would also end, which would be the catalyst for Ivelisse to move back to Philadelphia. Now, by this time, her girls are in middle school and are adjusting to their new life while they all move in with Ivelisse's mother. After working and saving, Ivelisse purchased her own home in the Longcrest neighborhood in Philadelphia. According to her niece, Mari, Ivelisse was in and out of relationships, but it was also, private. She was a very private person, Mari says. So there are not very many details for us to go about, to share with these relationships, and it's not really pertinent to the story, but it is to be noted that she was fairly private about her relationships. Now, you guys, it won't be until 2019, while working as a medical assistant, that Ivelisse meets her future husband, Miguel Aguilar. Miguel was working in the medical office performing maintenance when they met, clicked, and began dating, which would eventually lead to their marriage a few years later. The wedding was at Ivelisse's mother's house. Now, at first, Ivelisse's daughters were not fond of Miguel. The girls are now adults and thought Miguel to be fairly erratic in behavior. So this was a red flag for them. Mari tells me about a time when Miguel had Ivelisse hop on a bus and go to Mexico without telling anyone in the family where they were going and how long they would be gone or really any other detail, which I get. Okay, you guys, we know she's an adult. She has adult children. She doesn't have to tell anybody anything. However, this lack of communication with her daughters about a trip of this magnitude was not something typical of Ivelisse and communication with her kids prior to Miguel coming around. It should be noted, though, that Miguel was also a full 13 years younger than Ivelisse. Ivelisse's niece shares with me that when he first came around, he would show himself as a God-fearing man and this righteous man. And now, okay, Miguel has 4 kids from either one or multiple previous relationships. I'm not sure on that detail, but none of his children lived with him. In fact, all 4 of them lived in Mexico, which is likely the reason Ivelisse and Miguel took the bus to Mexico. I'm assuming was to visit family and hopefully to see his children. One of Ivelisse's daughters lived with them and didn't see any physical abuse in the house. However, the family did begin to suspect abuse within the last year. Miguel would present himself as this victim to the family, telling Ivelisse's nieces, quote, "Your aunt and I are separated. We just live together. She's always angry," end quote. Even the few months leading up to Ivelisse's murder, Miguel would confide in his mother-in-law with his narrative on things. Although the two were seemingly separated, she did allow him to live in her home and she still helped him out financially. Now, this just goes along with what we've been told about Ivelisse's kind and giving nature and always wanting to take care of those around her. Did Miguel have a job? Well, yeah, that's how they met, was when he was doing construction at the medical office she was working at. But since he did not have documents or papers proving citizenship, most of his work had to be done off the books. And he would claim to Ivelisse that he needed emergency funds for his parents, etc., and Ivelisse would help him out often financially. Her youngest daughter, who lived with them, begins to notice that he seemed to be seeking sympathy from her. He was a very jealous-natured and very controlling man, which, given Ivelisse's fun, loving, and welcoming spirit, it doesn't sound as though he would appreciate her for who she was at all. He tried to control who she was with, if she was going with friends, or if she was friendly or friends with any male, and he was always wanting to know exactly where she was and with whom at all times. Leading up to her murder, Miguel's jealousy hit an all-time high when he reached out to one of Ivelisse's family friends. Now, this is just a family friend, one guy that's been around for a long time. And so Miguel messages him on Facebook and threatens him. And now keep in mind, Miguel and Ivelisse at this point, they're separated, heading towards divorce. Following this move on Miguel's part, Ivelisse would then hit her breaking point. She'd say, "I'm done." And she put up stronger boundaries between her and Miguel. Now, living in Ivelisse's home, let me paint this for y'all so we know going forward with the rest of the story, is Ivelisse's younger brother. And now he did have a fairly decent relationship, with Miguel. And then Ivelisse's youngest daughter. And then, of course, we have Ivelisse. And then they have a cat. And now we find ourselves the day before her murder. So Miguel and her brother are at the house alone. Miguel begins to confide to his brother-in-law how Ivelisse doesn't want to be with him anymore and he doesn't know what to do. Another victim narrative. Now, according to Ivelisse's brother, Miguel has what were described as crazy eyes that night. And her brother listens, and then he warns Miguel sternly, quote, "This is your relationship, but you are to never put your hands on my sister," end quote. Now, leading up to this point, there's no evidence clear to others, even those living with the couple, that Miguel ever did hit Ivelisse. But you guys, I wonder if it was something about Miguel's crazy eyes, which made her brother say that warning. While Miguel and his brother-in-law are still at the house, Ivelisse, along with two of her sisters and one of her best friends, are having a girls' night out to dinner and maybe a few drinks. Now, during this evening, the girls plan a spontaneous impromptu trip to New York for the next morning to do shopping, to go eat and explore. And Ivelisse comes home from dinner that night. She's looking forward to the quality time she'll get with her sisters and friends the next day. She gets a few days to relax and get away from all the stress of her estranged relationship with Miguel. Now, she doesn't tell Miguel about the trip. Why would she? She doesn't owe him anything. She doesn't need to. Remember, she's putting up boundaries. But he does find out because he goes through her cell phone and he reads about it. Either way, she was going, whether he was going to try to stop her or not. Who is he to demand what she does? She either packs a bag for that trip that night or in the morning. We're not sure which one, but we will find the bag packed for her New York trip with her sisters and her friends later. The next morning, Ivelisse's household members all go about their days, so her brother has to leave early. He drives an hour out to Reading, Pennsylvania, to his job. Her youngest daughter has signed up to help at a yoga event alongside her cousin, Mari, the one who reached out to me. And as for Miguel, okay, we'll get to Miguel in just a little bit, but he's there. About 8:15 a.m. on October 26, 2024, Ivelisse's daughter begins to head out of the house for the event. Now, typically, she would seek her mother's blessing in Spanish, yet since her mom was a little sick and she did hear a cough through the door, she assumed that her mother just needed to rest, and so she politely just let her mom rest and she turns around to go downstairs.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Downstairs, she notices Miguel sitting in the living room, still. He's wearing his work clothes. He's not on his phone. The television is not on. He's not eating. He is just sitting, alone, in silence, on the couch, staring off into space. She says hi and leaves, not thinking anything was particularly suspicious. After all, Miguel was erratic anyway. Now, Mari and her cousin, Ivelisse's daughter, are at the yoga event, which is to end around 1, and their moms and a friend were supposed to be headed on their mini road trip girls' weekend to New York that morning. So when Ivelisse's sister calls the girls at the event, she asks them to come home and let her into the house. They cannot get a hold of Ivelisse. No one's really worried yet. Maybe she overslept or she's just running late, which was fairly typical of Ivelisse. Well, the girls do leave and they get to the house. Nothing seems suspicious again. And again, it could just be Ivelisse running a little late, or maybe she's in the shower or she just didn't hear her cell phone. Ivelisse's daughter unlocks the door for her aunts and the friend and looks around the house. Now, her daughter does have to continue on to get to her job because she has clients waiting for her. But before they head out, they walk around the house and they do a look around and nothing's disturbed, you guys. The cat is there. No furniture is tossed over. But her bag and her purse are not there. And they check the bedrooms, room by room, the living rooms, and nothing seems suspicious. She's just simply not there. Okay. But they don't check the basement. The basement was just a storage room, really, where Miguel kept his tools for his job for the construction company. So it makes sense that they wouldn't check looking for her because she wouldn't just be hanging out in a basement in the middle of all these tools. There's no sensible explanation as to why they would need to look in the basement. Her daughter cancels the rest of her clients that day as she continues to get updates from her aunts that her mom is still not responding to anyone. One thought they had was, Okay, maybe Miguel took Ivelisse to Mexico again on a spur-of-the-moment trip, but this didn't make sense to anyone since she already had plans with her sisters and her friend. Plus, she couldn't stand her estranged husband. This is when anxiety sets in. Ivelisse's daughter calls Mari, and together they try to go over scenarios. But the one that they can't shake is this. Did Miguel kidnap Ivelisse? Her car was gone from where she typically parked it, which was right in front of her home on the street. Miguel's van was gone. The family begins to buzz with anxiety, and they all decide to gather together at Ivelisse's mother's home. Recall, this was where Ivelisse and Miguel got married. Ivelisse's older daughter, the one who does not live at home with them, drives immediately to Philly from New Jersey to be with her family at this time. Now, it's then that Ivelisse's sister shows the family a text message that she allegedly received from Ivelisse. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what it said. Quote, "I'm so sick of Miguel. I'm tired of this. I'm okay. I'm meeting with a lawyer. I'll contact you in a few days. Miguel hacked my phone." End quote. Do we believe that this was actually Ivelisse? Now, when this message was sent, it was when the girls were at yoga and the brother was at work and Miguel was the last person seen at the home. Recall, he was just sitting there staring like a weirdo. It's this message which begins to truly worry the sisters, but they're not ready to panic yet. They're more just curious what's going on. Ivelisse, was there a fight? And you guys are pivoting your plans. They don't understand why she's bailing on them and why she's not answering, because that's not typical of her not to just communicate, especially when they had commitments. So that's when they decide to call the girls at yoga and say, hey, come let us in the house. We can't get a hold of Ivelisse. And now we're all caught up to speed. After everyone reads this message, the family begins taking out their own phones, and they all begin to call Miguel directly themselves. Now, around 10 a.m., Ivelisse's sister calls him. He actually answers, you guys, and he says, quote, "I'm at work. I saw her pack a bag. You know how she is. She'll be back in a few days." End quote. Which is eerily similar to the text message that allegedly Ivelisse sent her sister, which said, "I'll contact you in a few days." And of course, the family doesn't believe Miguel, obviously. So they go back to Ivelisse's home around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they find Ivelisse's car 2 blocks away from her house. And Miguel's white work van was still not there. So now Ivelisse's daughter, the one who lives at home, the younger one, calls him. He doesn't call back, but he texts her and he says, quote, "I'm at work. Is everything okay?" End quote. No, Miguel, everything was not okay. You know, Ivelisse was strong, her family says. She was very strong. Could Miguel even be able to overtake her? Could this even be possible that he could even do something to her? What was going on? Later, the family would find out that Miguel had texted his brother-in-law to ask him if he was coming home early that day. Maybe they could get a few drinks, but, you know, upon reflection, Mari tells me she believes now that this was a way that Miguel was trying to gauge what time the brother-in-law would be home back to the house, which makes sense to me. Ivelisse's older daughter, the one who just drove from New Jersey, is able to successfully log into her mother's phone data with her own phone, and they're able to see an approximate location of her mom's cell phone location. You guys, it's not at the house. In fact, it's a location in southwest Philly near the airport. So Ivelisse's daughters, niece, sisters, and friend all pile into a car and go to the location on the phone together. And it's then they decide it's time to call the police, which unfortunately we all know too well that their response will be wait until 24 hours because she's an adult and she has a right to go anywhere she pleases. They roll the car to a stop and they look out the window. It says the phone is here at this location, but they cannot see it. Instead, they see a wooded area off the 95 highway, as if someone threw Ivelisse's cell phone out the window on the way To the airport, perhaps? The next morning, Mari stops by Ivelisse's house to see her cousins and uncle before she picks up her brother from the train station. Now, he's coming from New York to support this family. You guys, I meant it when I said this family was close-knit and so supportive and loving of each other. Ivelisse's daughters walk around the neighborhood and ask if anyone has any camera footage from their homes that they may be able to look at to see if they can catch their mother leaving the house or Miguel leaving the house and just try to time things. Well, the family was able to obtain some footage. And in the footage, it shows Miguel parking Ivelisse's car and walking off quickly 2 blocks away. At this point, you guys, 24 hours has come and gone. Okay, now we can call the police. Maybe now they'll listen to us. We follow protocol. Let's go. So the daughters and Mari can't shake the feeling, though, that they're missing something. There's something that they're just not getting here. So what do? They decide, hey, let's look around the house once more. However, this time, they do go into the basement. As they descend down into the basement, they're terrified upon seeing light stains of blood going down the staircase. They follow them and walk out of the basement and decide they need to look in the garage, which is accessible from right outside the basement. They're attached, but it's just an exterior entrance. In the garage, Mari and a family friend immediately see Ivelisse's bag and purse. They begin to move things around in the crowded garage until Mari's cousin tells them, stop. Now, this is Ivelisse's daughter. Stop. We found blood. It's been 24 hours. We have to call the police. Which, kudos to her, because this was such a smart decision in the face of trauma for her to think so concisely and clearly about logistics. Because pending a trial ever happens, any evidence collected would not have been contaminated because she stopped it. I just don't know how she could think so clearly in that time, but she was right to call the police. And you know what? Props to the police. They showed up immediately. A homicide detective arrived at the home, and very quickly, nobody was allowed back in the house because it's now a crime scene. While waiting outside, law enforcement sweeps the home. A police officer walks up to Ivelisse's daughters and pulls them aside. Now, Mari is just a few feet away, but she's not able to hear what's being said. But she tells me how she'll never forget the sounds her cousins made. And it's then that she knew her aunt was no longer with them.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The officer tells the daughters that Ivelisse's body is in the garage, and she is dead. Mari tells me that everything after this moment is hazy, and rightfully so, girl. You know, trauma is a beast on your memory. One of Ivelisse's daughters has a panic attack outside the home, and law enforcement makes a call to 911 because they need a paramedic. They need medical out there because she can't breathe. Within minutes, though, the street is full of neighbors coming out of their homes to see what was going on at this house. As the family waited for detectives to finish at the scene, more details began to emerge. Ivelisse was stabbed to death and wrapped in a blanket before her body was hidden in the garage. After many agonizing hours, the medical team brings Ivelisse's body out in a body bag, and the daughters are asked to come to the station to give reports. Detectives immediately begin to work. The first call is to Miguel's employer. It's then that this employer relays to the officer that, I know, we're going to be shocked, you guys. Miguel never showed up to work that day. Shocker. I know. Authorities find Miguel's work van at a parking lot near the airport, but it's not an airport parking lot, official parking lot. It's more of an off-site pay each day private parking lot that is used for the airport. Now, the only reason the car was discovered, though, and it wasn't discovered until about a month later, is because the family kept receiving late notices in the mail stating that Ivelisse owed over $1,000 in fees for parking her car at that parking lot for longer than 30 days, and if she didn't come move it, they were going to tow it. So once authorities were able to get to the car, it was noted that Miguel's cell phones were left in the van, but they were wiped clean. He was allegedly way more tech savvy than the family was initially aware of. Authorities were able to confirm that, yes, Miguel did indeed purchase a ticket to Cancun with a layover in Atlanta, but he never made it on that plane. So where did he go? The family soon discovers that on October 26, Miguel took money out of Ivelisse's bank account. He made 2 ATM transactions that day, and both were around $1,000. What's interesting is this. Miguel's parents, who live in Mexico, were in contact with Ivelisse's mother during those 24 hours while everyone was searching for Ivelisse, and Miguel claimed he was at work. However, once Ivelisse's body was discovered, his parents blocked the family and they ceased all contact. There is currently a $20,000 reward for the capture of Miguel Aguilar. 34 years old. He's a Hispanic male. He's about 5 feet 4 inches, 240 pounds, brown eyes, black hair. This is an open homicide investigation, and the family's main goal is to raise awareness for everyone to be on the lookout for Miguel. I'll include his photo on our Instagram for this podcast at You Should Be Here Pod in the highlights, Ivelisse Lugo. So go ahead and look that up, and please share the photos because we need everybody to have their eyes open for this individual. There was a recent sighting of Miguel, though, you guys. So a woman in Camden, New Jersey said she thinks she saw him at a liquor store. She did call the police. Awesome. Love that she did that. And she tells the family that the police said, okay, we'll call you back, but they never did call her back. So we don't know where that lead went, if it was even looked into, but we know that at least somebody was out there looking out and calling the police. Thank you to that citizen. What's interesting is when I went to Miguel's Facebook page, it says that he lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. However, it says he's from Camden, New Jersey. Could this give credibility to the sighting? Are you still in Camden, New Jersey, Miguel? I just want you to know we're getting your photo out there. It's circulating, and we're getting a lot of people looking for you. As of February 2025, there are very little updates, although the family continues to constantly reach out to authorities to see if there are updates. I asked Mari, what would justice look like for your family? And she told me this: find Miguel. They are begging everyone listening to share his face on their social media accounts. If you see Miguel, please call the Philadelphia police immediately. 215-686-8477. Please, let's come together. Let's circulate this photo. Miguel Aguilar is wanted on suspicion of murder. He is a suspect at large. Remember, everyone listening, please listen to this. You are wanted. You are needed. And you deserve a safe love. Nobody is allowed to lay their hands on you and harm you. Nobody is allowed to spew venom from their mouths to harm you with their words. You deserve a safe love. I promise you this. Until next time, take care of yourself. I'm Jules with True Crime and Headlines. I'd love to have you join us. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Fire Eyes Media.
Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.